The crystal wine glass crashed onto the hardwood floor, spreading red like a fresh wound screaming for attention. Please subscribe and like this video and listen to my story till the end and let me know which city you're listening from. That way, I can see how far my story has traveled. 3 seconds earlier, that same wine had been in my face, soaking my hair, staining my crisp white shirt, stinging my eyes. But that wasn't the real break. The real thing that broke that night was something much deeper. Lars Whitaker, my wife's father, stood at the head of the dining table, an empty glass in hand, his stare filled with raw contempt that chilled my bones. Across from him, my sister-in-law, Cassidy, was laughing with that cruel kind of ease that makes your throat tighten. "Thanks, Dad. Ha ha ha. Your timing is flawless. Maybe that'll teach him some respect," she said between giggles that shook the table. Filthy pig. I felt my palms tighten around the chair beneath me as the entire Whitaker family watched like this was some kind of twisted show. Marina, my wife, sat beside me, lips pressed together, eyes lifeless in the glow of the chandelier. Her mother, Edith, covered her mouth silently. I couldn't tell if she was shocked or barely containing a laugh. Her brother, Theo, stared at his plate like it might swallow him whole. And Lars just stood there, chest puffed out like he'd won a medal for this cruelty. The room went quiet except for Cassidy's fading laughter. I stood up slowly, calm on the surface, fury underneath. I pulled out my phone like a man who'd rehearsed this moment 1,000 times. Thumb trembling only slightly, I dialed. When the call connected, I said, "Greer, it's time. Execute everything we talked about." The silence was thick. Even Cassidy had stopped laughing. They had no idea who I really was. No clue what I'd built or what I was about to take from them. My name is Ethan Grayson. I'm 42 now. Most people thought I was a mild-mannered number cruncher in a finance office. Quiet, unassuming, harmless. What they didn't know was that quiet didn't mean weak, and unassuming didn't mean powerless. For 15 years, I'd built something bigger than the Whitakers could ever imagine. A private equity firm that didn't just invest, it reshaped dying businesses into profit engines. But they only saw me as Marina's husband, who didn't belong. Ever since I married her 8 years ago, they treated me like I was beneath them, beneath their clubs, their parties, their lofty standards. Lars made sure to say it loud enough at every gathering. "Ethan works in investments, some sort of number thing. I never really get it." Ha ha ha. But he did know. He just hated that I became more successful than him, without ever needing his help. If you're enjoying this story so far and want to hear how this unfolds, hit that subscribe button right now. Drop a comment telling me what you would have done in my shoes. And smash that like button, because what's coming next will blow your mind. To the Whitakers, I was a nobody. Quiet. Simple. But I managed over 300 million under management. Personal worth close to 70 million. They had no idea. Marina knew, of course. She saw the bank statements, signed the tax returns. But she never corrected her family. That was the first sign of the cracks I refused to see. It started small, a joke about my clothes here, a condescending comment there. "Ethan, did you pick up that jacket at a discount store?" Ha ha ha. Theo bragging about fancy law clients. Edith casually asking why we weren't living somewhere nicer. Worst of all was Cassidy, proudly married to a hedge fund guy who loved to flaunt his bonuses and ha-ha-ha belittle mine. I'd smile. Nod. Let them believe what they wanted. But what they didn't know was this. I wasn't just humble because I had nothing to prove. I was humble because I had everything waiting, and tonight was only the beginning. In part 2, I discover something that changes everything, not just about Marina, but about the whole Whitaker family. You won't believe what I found. The night Lars Whitaker drenched me in wine wasn't just a public humiliation, it was the spark. But the fire had been building long before that. Quietly, secretly. I just hadn't let myself see it. Marina, my wife, had changed. When we first met, she was fierce, independent, a curator at a rising contemporary art gallery, passionate about pieces that made people feel something. She challenged her family's wealth, carved her own identity, and I admired her for that. God, I loved her. But slowly, year after year, she started slipping back into their world. More family events, more shallow smiles, more judging eyes. And then one day, her gaze started to mirror theirs. 6 months before that infamous New Year's dinner, things shifted. She started taking phone calls in other rooms. Her book club started ending well past midnight. Her nails were always fresh, her hair perfect, too perfect. Everything started to feel off. At first, I told myself not to be paranoid. But you don't manage hundreds of millions without learning to trust your gut. So, I hired someone. Marcus Flynn, ex-FBI, now a private investigator. Discreet, sharp, ruthless when it came to facts. 2 weeks later, he walked into my office with a thick envelope and eyes full of quiet pity. Inside, photographs, phone logs, screenshots, GPS tracking, hotel receipts, conversations. The truth sliced deeper than any blade. Marina was having an affair. His name was Julian Cross, a gallery owner with pretentious scarves and just enough charm to prey on someone needing validation. They'd been meeting at his downtown loft multiple times a week, laughing, drinking, sleeping together. But what shattered me wasn't the sex. It was the texts. Ethan has no idea. He's so busy with his spreadsheets, it's almost cute. Haha. He still thinks I come home late from book club. I get what Dad meant now. He really is a nobody pretending to be somebody. I sat alone in my study that night. Cold. Stone still. The floor beneath me could have disappeared, and I wouldn't have noticed. No tears came. Not yet. What filled me was something clearer. Stronger. Not heartbreak. Resolve. That was the night I started planning. Not revenge. Not yet, but protection. If they wanted war, I would be ready. And I already had their map. See, what Marina's family didn't know is that I'd been studying their empire for years. Not out of malice. Out of habit. It's what I did: analyze market vulnerabilities, track portfolios, look for patterns in real estate collapses. And the Whitaker empire? It was rotting beneath the surface. Lars owned 12 properties, all aging commercial spaces. 3 had mortgages nearing maturity, and with interest rates rising, he'd never refinance in time. 2 were bleeding cash. 1, the prestigious Whitaker Plaza, was about to lose its anchor tenant in 6 months. It was like watching a crumbling cathedral no one wanted to admit was falling. And I realized I didn't need to destroy Lars. I just needed to let gravity do the work. So I quietly began positioning my pieces. Not recklessly, strategically. I approached his largest tenant through a proxy. Offered better terms in a building I owned. They accepted. I contacted the banks holding his loans and expressed interest in acquiring the notes, at a discount, of course, if Lars defaulted. And I started pulling every loose thread I could find in the Whitaker tapestry. Theo's law firm? Bleeding clients and barely afloat. Cassidy's husband? Turns out that hedge fund wasn't a rocket, it was a sinking ship. Investors were leaving. Fast. Even Edith, quiet, elegant Edith, had been covering personal debt by quietly borrowing from Lars. I had the credit transfers to prove it. By Christmas, I held their secrets like loaded weapons in my pocket. And all I needed was the right moment to strike. The New Year's Eve dinner wasn't just a celebration. It was a funeral. They just didn't know it yet. Quick moment. If this part of the story is hitting you, do me a favor. Like this video, drop a comment below, and let me know if you've ever been betrayed like this, by a partner, a friend, or even family. Your story matters. And I read every one. Speech balloon. In part 3, I make my move. They humiliated me in front of everyone. What they didn't know is, I was about to take everything from them. One call at that dinner changed their lives forever. I stood at the Whitaker family table, red wine dripping down my face, burning my eyes and soaking into my shirt like blood. And still, the room was dead silent. Cassidy had stopped laughing. Lars's chest still heaved with pride, like assaulting his son-in-law was some kind of victory. He didn't know what he'd just done. None of them did. I looked each of them in the eyes, Marina, Theo, Cassidy, Edith, then back to Lars. Then I pulled out my phone. Pressed one button. Greer, I said into the receiver. My voice didn't even shake. It's time. Execute everything we discussed. Click. I didn't yell. I didn't threaten. I just let the silence do the talking. Marina finally broke it. Ethan, what are you doing? There it was. The first crack in the perfect porcelain of her family's confidence. I'm done, I said. Calm. Cold. Crystal clear. Done being humiliated by this family. Done pretending I'm not watching everything crumble around you. Done with you. What are you talking about? Lars barked. Who the hell did you just call? My attorney. The color drained from Cassidy's face. You can't just. Actually, I can, I said. As of this moment, I'm filing for divorce. Marina, you'll be served tomorrow. Lars, I'm also filing a civil suit against you for assault. That whine. I turned my phone screen to show them the recording. It's all here. Audio. Video. Time-stamped. Edith gasped. Marina's hand shot to her chest. You recorded this? Cassidy spat. In this state, I can record anything as long as I'm a participant in the conversation. It's perfectly legal. I looked at Theo, who knew I was right but said nothing, just kept staring at his untouched salmon. Ethan, let's talk about this like adults, Theo finally murmured. I am, I replied. More rational than I've been in 8 years. And then I dropped the bomb. I'm also freezing all marital assets pending divorce proceedings. And, Lars, I now hold the mortgage notes on 3 of your commercial properties. You're currently in default on 2. I'm calling those notes due. Silence. It was the kind of silence you hear at funerals. Lars's face turned from crimson to bone white. You're bluffing. I bought the notes 3 months ago. You never checked. Never even considered I might be more than the idiot your daughter married. Cassidy stood up, knocking over her wine glass. Marina, I turned to her. Do you want to tell your family where you've been 3 nights a week? She froze. I could see her eyes begging me not to say it. Not out loud. But she didn't deserve protection. You know what? I'll do it, I said. Julian Cross. Gallery owner. Downtown loft. Thursday afternoons. Monday nights. Sometimes even Sundays. Does that ring a bell? Gasps. A plate shattered on the floor. Someone muttered, "Oh my God." And if anyone doubts it, I continued, Greer has all the texts, photos, videos, all admissible. Ethan, Marina choked. I didn't mean. You meant all of it, I said. Every lie, every message where you laughed at me behind my back. Tears filled her eyes. But I felt nothing. Cassidy tried to cut in again, but I wasn't finished. Theo, your biggest client is pulling out of your law firm. Guess who bought his warehouse yesterday? His jaw dropped. Bill Hendricks. I nodded. And Cassidy? You might want to ask your husband how much money is left in that hedge fund. He's been losing clients faster than you lose fake friends. Bradley, her perfect little trophy of a husband, looked like he might vomit. Edith was actually weeping now. And then I turned back to Lars. One last thing, Lars. That second mortgage you took out on this house to cover Edith's spending? That note's maturing in 6 months. Good luck refinancing, especially now that your reputation's shot and tenants are already pulling out of Whitaker Plaza. Edith let out a small, heartbreaking sound. Not anger, not even shame, just defeat. You're a monster, Marina whispered through tears. I looked at her, the woman I once loved. The woman who laughed behind my back. No, I said softly. I'm just a man who finally knows his worth. I walked toward the door. My shirt was soaked, my hair sticky, the whole room still in shock. At the threshold, I paused, turned back. Happy New Year, everyone. Then I left. Outside, it was cold, the kind of January cold that wakes you up from everything fake. And as I stepped into the night, I felt lighter than I had in years. Quick pause here. If you were Ethan, would you have done the same? Tell me in the comments. And if you've dealt with something similar, share your story. You're not alone. Subscribe for more stories about standing your ground and reclaiming your life. In part 4, the aftermath begins. Lawsuits are filed. Empires collapse. And the Whitaker family starts to feel the weight of everything they thought they could hide. It's about to get brutal. The next 72 hours were chaos. Greer, my attorney, worked like a man possessed. Every motion, every filing, every legal maneuver we'd mapped out over the last 3 months unfolded like chess moves. Precise. Brutal. Irrevocable. Marina was served divorce papers on January 1st. Lars received foreclosure notices on January 2nd. Theo's law firm was notified that the Hendricks account, his firm's largest client, was pulling out on January 3rd. And me? I didn't pick up a single call. Marina rang my phone 16 times the first day. I listened to the voicemails later. Some were furious. Some were pleading. One sounded like she'd been crying for hours. Ethan, please. Please just talk to me. Theo called, trying to make a deal. Even Edith left a voice message. Her voice trembled as she asked if I could maybe slow things down a little. Just until they got their affairs in order. I didn't respond. There was nothing left to say. The PI's report, all of it, including Marina's texts and explicit exchanges with Julian, was now part of the divorce case. Under state law, adultery changes everything. No clean 50-50 split. No graceful exit. Greer was going to make sure Marina walked away with a sliver, if that. As for Lars's real estate empire, it didn't crumble. It imploded. Within a week, whispers about his finances echoed through the industry. Word spread fast, the kind of word that sticks. Investors stopped returning calls. Banks started calling their loans. Tenants started quietly shopping for new spaces. I remember sitting in my office, sipping coffee, watching the city skyline when I got a call from one of my contacts. Lars just tried to get a refinance on Whitaker Plaza, they said. I already knew the answer. He'd been denied. His crown jewel was slipping through his fingers. The man who once mocked me for not understanding real business was about to lose his entire portfolio because I understood the numbers better than he ever would. Cassidy and Bradley weren't doing much better. Bradley's hedge fund tanked before the end of the quarter. 3 years of underperformance and inflated promises finally caught up with him. Investors pulled out. Fast. I heard from a mutual contact that he'd taken a junior analyst job in someone else's firm, making about a third of what he used to. Cassidy filed for divorce 6 months later. Apparently, the man who couldn't fund private jets and Hermes bags wasn't worth keeping. Theo's law firm survived barely. But he knew I'd burned his biggest bridge, and deep down he understood exactly why. He sent me an email. Ethan, I'm sorry for how we treated you. I hope one day you'll forgive us. I deleted it. Some apologies don't deserve answers. And Marina? God, Marina. She called one night. I let it go to voicemail. Then I sat in my study and played it on speaker. Just me, the darkness, and her breaking voice. Ethan, I know I messed up. I know I hurt you. But we were something once, weren't we? A pause. A breath. I don't even care about the money anymore. I miss you. It should have made me feel something. It should have twisted a knife. But all I felt was emptiness. Because the woman I fell in love with, the Marina who believed in art and authenticity and soul, she had disappeared long ago. Maybe she never existed outside of who I hoped she'd be. If you've ever been in a relationship where the person you loved slowly became someone else, I see you. I feel you. Drop a broken heart in the comments or tell me what helped you move on. Let's be honest with each other here. This is a safe space. The divorce dragged for 8 months. Marina fought. She cried. She accused. She tried to play the victim. But Greer didn't flinch. He had evidence. Legal precedent. Power. She ended up with less than $200,000 and her car. From nearly half my fortune to a footnote. Lars lost his flagship building, Whitaker Plaza, first. I foreclosed and flipped it to a development group that planned to turn it into a mixed-use property with modern amenities. The irony? It was exactly what Lars should have done 10 years ago. But he didn't adapt. He thought the world would never change, and now it had passed him by. Theo faded into mediocrity, stuck in the shadow of failed legacy. Cassidy married an insurance broker. No more designer gowns. No more luxury escapes. Edith sold the Whitaker estate to cover debts. She even asked if I'd buy it back, so she could stay there. I said no. Let someone else own the house where your husband threw wine in my face. I didn't want a single square inch of that memory. In the final part, I'll tell you how it all ended. A new life, a new love, and the greatest revenge of all, peace. It's not just about what I took from the Whitakers, it's about what I finally gave to myself. Don't miss it. A year after that New Year's Eve, I was sitting in my new office, 40 floors above the city. Sunlight spilled through the glass walls. Below me, traffic moved like veins carrying life through concrete and steel. My fund had grown quietly, steadily, to over 400 million under management. Business was good. No, business was great. But more than the money, what I had gained was something I didn't even know I was missing. Peace. My assistant knocked softly on the door. Mr. Grayson, there's someone here to see you. She doesn't have an appointment, but she says it's important. I looked up from my screen. Who is it? Amanda Reeves. She's a curator at the Contemporary Art Museum. Something in my chest shifted. Just slightly. Send her in. She walked in with calm confidence. Auburn hair pulled back, eyes sharp and curious, taking in the room without being impressed by it. No fake awe. No forced smiles. Mr. Grayson, she said, offering her hand. Thank you for seeing me. Call me Ethan, I replied. I'm here to ask for money, she said plainly. I laughed. A real laugh. The kind that comes from the gut. That's refreshingly honest. I don't believe in wasting time, she said. And you strike me as someone who respects clarity. We talked for over an hour about art, about rebuilding cities through culture, about purpose beyond profit. She challenged my thinking. She didn't flatter me. She didn't care who I was married to or who I used to be. When she left, I had committed $5 million to the museum's expansion. And I asked her to dinner. She said yes. I heard updates about the Whitakers occasionally. Through whispers. Through industry noise. Lars took a job managing properties for someone else, a man who once ruled his own empire, now taking orders. Theo kept practicing law, still average, still invisible. Cassidy remarried. Edith downsized. Marina moved to California, trying to restart the art career she abandoned when she chose status over substance. I wished her well in the abstract way you wish well for someone who once mattered and no longer does. Amanda and I dated for 6 months before she agreed to move in with conditions. She kept her own studio. Her independence. Her identity. She wasn't with me because she needed me. She was with me because she chose me. And that meant everything. 2 years to the day after wine was thrown in my face, Amanda and I hosted a New Year's Eve dinner at my penthouse. Friends. Laughter. Music. Warmth. At midnight, as champagne flowed and the city exploded with light, she pulled me out onto the balcony. You know what I love about you? She asked. My devastating charm? I grinned. She laughed softly. Aw. That too. But mostly you know your worth. You don't need anyone's approval. You don't beg for respect. You just walk away from people who don't give it. I wrapped my arm around her, the cold air sharp and clean. I had to learn that the hard way. The hard lessons are the ones that stick, she said. As we stood there, something finally settled inside me. The Whitakers thought they were teaching me a lesson when they humiliated me. What they really taught me was this. Being good enough for the wrong people means nothing. Walking away is sometimes the strongest move you'll ever make. That night wasn't my downfall. It was my release. Tell me in the comments. And if you've dealt with something similar, share your story. You're not alone. Subscribe for more stories about standing your ground and reclaiming your life. I didn't win by destroying them. I won by building a life so full, so grounded, so peaceful. They could never touch it. And that glass of wine? It didn't put me in my place. It set me free.